Hello, this is Tony Heller from realclimatescience.com, setting the record straight about climate. 110 years ago this week was America's largest fire. The fire burned up more than 3 million acres along the Idaho-Montana border, and most of that burn occurred in a period of just 6 hours. To get a feel for how big this fire was, 3 million acres is slightly less than all the burn acreage in the United States and Alaska so far this year. But the vast majority of the burn in 1910 occurred in just 6 hours. Many cities in Idaho and Montana were completely wiped out by the fire, and dozens of firefighters lost their lives, as well as civilians. Salt Lake City Tribune, August 22, 1910. Flames bring death and devastation. Appalling loss of life in raging forest fires. Party of 180 caught in seething zone, and great alarm is felt for their safety. Half of Wallace, Idaho destroyed. Property loss $1 million. Reports of fatalities come from all sides. Heroic fighters are burned by the score. This is the U.S. Forest Service report on the Great Fire of 1910. No official cause was ever listed for the 1910 fire, but 1910 was also the driest year in anyone's memory. Snows melted early and the spring rains never came. By June, the woods were on fire in 100 different places. By August, normally swift-running rivers had slowed to a crawl, and many streams had simply disappeared into the bedrock. It was one of the largest forest fires in American history, maybe even one of the largest forest fires ever anywhere in the world. No one knows for sure, but even now it's hard to put into words what it did. For 2 terrifying days and nights, August 20 and 21st, 1910, the fire raged across 3 million acres of virgin timberland in northern Idaho and western Montana. Many thought the world would end, and for 86 fire victims it did. Most of what was destroyed fell to hurricane-force winds that turned the fire into a blowtorch. Reconstructing what happened leads to an almost impossible conclusion. Most of the devastation occurred in a 6-hour period. And here's a newspaper article from 1910. Several fires united. It was really a union of a number of separate fires driven to fury by the fierce hurricane of August 26th. The orange in this map shows the huge areas which burned, mostly in a period of just 6 hours. And remember, this is nearly as much acreage as has burned in all of the United States, including Alaska, so far this year. So when you hear the press talking about the record fires this year, they really have no idea what they're talking about. March of 1910 was by far the warmest March on record in the United States, with an average maximum temperature of 65 degrees that was more than 10 degrees above normal. And during March of 1910, 2/3 of days in the United States were over 60 degrees Fahrenheit. This was the highest on record and was more than 50% above normal. So the snow melted very early that year. The creeks dried up, the summer was very warm, and during August, hurricane-force winds drove the fire. So what does NASA have to say about 1910? They say that was one of the coldest years on record. I'm guessing that the people who suffered through those fires might have disagreed, but they aren't around anymore to set the record straight. Fortunately, Toto is a very good historian, and he is setting the record straight. You can visit him on the web at realclimatescience.com.